We would be honored if you would join us.
Welcome to Unmistakably Star Wars, your source for a high-quality, informative, and entertaining look into the Star Wars galaxy.
So I had a dilemma the other night.
What'd you do now?
Well,
Got a growing problem, Jeremy?
There's a list. So I'm kind of waiting for Empire's End to come out, you know, and next week we'll get this new novel by Chuck Wendig. I'm very excited.
Yes.
You know, can't wait. But like, I'm in between stuff. I'm in between books.
Yeah.
So I went into my living room where my bookshelf is of Star Wars books, you know, prominently placed where everyone that walks into the house knows I'm a total nerd.
Goodbye, wedding portrait. Hello, Star Wars books.
There's literally a Star Wars like framed picture hanging above the Yeah. So next to the kids, of course, and the wife. Yeah. But you know,
it didn't get weird until you actually put the Star Wars mobile over your side of the bed. But anyway,
it plays the Imperial March.
Yes.
So no, I'm
which is interesting because that's actually what plays when my mother-in-law calls my phone. But anyway, go ahead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but there are quite a few Star Wars books out there.
It's true.
You know, and I only have like a small sampling size, but a good friend came over and he was about a few months ago. He came over and he had this gigantic bag. Yeah. And he was like, got something for you. I'm like, oh no, you know, what is this? And he went to this used bookstore and found literally, I mean, it must be not 60. It's probably about 40 Star Wars books.
Wow. And just bequeathed them to you?
He just said, here you go, man. It was real cheap. I think he got them all for like $30. It was like paperbacks, you know.
What a deal.
Yeah. And it was doubles of stuff. You know, I brought some of them over to the house.
Yeah. I got my Han Solo one right up there.
Yeah. So I'm literally walking there and I kind of freaked out. I mean, I have issues, tons of them.
This we know, but go ahead.
Like, what do you pick? Like, if you were like if you had to reread something or read something and you have all the Star Wars books out there. Yeah. What do you guys pick? Because I just ended up walking away defeated.
You just you left the shelf there.
I just...
so you've got a beautiful display of used paperbacks.
I literally threw a white towel at the bookshelf and walked away. Yeah. I just threw the towel in.
Disappointing. What I would reread, I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
They don't make a whole lot of pop-up books for adults. So... Wow, was that a snort? Wow. So I don't know. I guess I would have to go with our friend Little Timmy Zahn and his.
I'm sorry.
Pardon me, Timothy Zahn.
Timothy.
And his original trilogy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Anything you pick? Any books? Well, anything comes to mind?
I only have a week because the next one's coming out in a week.
Well, yeah.
See, that's what would be playing through my head. I have to be able to finish it within the week.
Yep. So you're not like a multiple book reader person.
I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
I can only do one thing at a time.
Feed yourself, child. Mama's reading.
Pretty much. I now have snacks down low enough so he doesn't have to bother me when I'm engrossed in something.
Brilliant.
But I probably, if I only had a week...
It's tough.
Yeah.
I'm freaking out.
Yeah,
I'm still freaking out.
I don't know. Honestly, I am a sucker for young adult literature, so I'd probably do like the Ray book that came out and just reread that because I
almost grabbed Lost Stars by Claudia Gray.
See, that'd be a good reread.
It's quick.
I guess that's like technically in the YA genre, but so you started talking about that, and I immediately thought to our pre-production talk about Delilah, and we start talking young adult novels. That's just what I think about. It's like, is there a Delilah in the Star Wars galaxy?
Probably.
That Kylo Ren would call into?
That's a great segment idea.
I think we might have to go there at some point. We'll see if we can make that happen.
So, Eve, is there a book in mind, like if you had like a short amount of time, but you had to go reread something or read something for the first time? Is there anything that jumps out to you?
Well, I'm a terrible Star Wars fan outside of the films.
Yeah.
recently started on comics, but they seem endless, and I got overwhelmed.
I didn't even think about comics. That's a good call.
Excuse me. I started Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire, and I haven't finished yet.
Yeah.
But then I started receiving emails from Amazon about the Aftermath trilogy, so I added all them to my
brilliant. Just throw Amazon it in the cart. List. Throw it in the cart.
Yeah. Are they good? I don't talk to people about books insofar as Star Wars that often, so are they good?
Yeah, the Aftermath, this trilogy that will be concluding next week, it was really interesting with the first book in that series. There were a lot of expectations because it was the first big novel. I think people were expecting sort of what happened with Heir to the Empire, where you have Luke and Han and Leia, and it wasn't. It was a different group of characters. And some people, Chuck Wendig, the author, has a very unique style, and a lot of people were put off by that. But then you also had... There's this whole movement of people that were really upset about Disney just kind of saying everything that had been written before is legends. It didn't exist. You can go enjoy those stories, but they're not part of this canon, this Star Wars continuity. And so people started kind of spamming bad reviews for it on different sites and made it seem like it was worse than it was. It was fine. It's a fine book, but the second book in that series is really good. And it's called Life Debt. Han is prominently featured as well as Chewbacca, and it really brought up some great stuff. One of my favorites in this new canon, and so I'm really thrilled for the book next week. So I would recommend it. It's worth your time. So
okay.
Yeah. Well, welcome to Unmistakably Star Wars, where we talk books, all sorts of stuff. I'm Jeremy, and as always, I'm joined by Devin.
Greetings, Tauntauns.
And Beks.
Hey, guys.
And Eve.
Hello.
So, people write stuff for our website occasionally.
And that's because they're part of our team.
Yeah. Franklin has some articles out for us.
Franklin cranks out more articles than the Gutenberg printing press on its best day. He's a machine.
He's great, and one of the things I love about Franklin is he's always. So within fandom, you have people that just know an incredible amount of stuff. Franklin's one of those guys.
Yeah.
But one of the things I absolutely love about his fandom is how he sees all the information. And he has these unique takes all the time. He's always sending me messages saying, hey, I have this idea. What do you think? Yeah. And I'm like, I've never seen anyone think about that or write like that or consider this idea. And so he has several things up. Obviously, in time for Valentine's Day, he has an article that you need to go check out just about love themes in Star Wars. So,
nice.
Yeah, so you need to go check that out. So, yeah.
Love it.
Oh.
Can I make that my ringtone?
Please.
Star Wars.
Star Wars. So, Devin, a little SWAT this week. How's that going?
Thanks for asking, Jeremy. Yes. Star Wars on Tap. This week we are sitting down with Brian Livengood from Southern California. And Brian found his way to this small desert city. I think they only have one son there, but they've got a bunch of tumbleweeds. So one son, a bunch of tumbleweeds. And we're going to sit down with him. And if you want to follow him on the Twitter, I highly recommend that. So you can find him at BLIVENGO, BLivengo. And we're gonna sit down, talk about his Star Wars story, and have a great time doing it. It's a fun interview, and again, it's just amazing how, regardless of where we talk to folks from, the similarities in Star Wars fandom are kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a fun thing, man. I'm just excited. More and more people are reaching out to us and just saying, hey, how do I get on the show, or just asking questions about it. So it's a lot of fun. And one of the things we started doing that was sort of an offshoot of Star Wars on Tap is this idea of just the fact that we're meeting all these people.
Right.
And we're not just meeting and engaging just through Star Wars on Tap, but we're realizing just how many really awesome and amazing and just fun and just good-natured and thoughtful fans of Star Wars that we're coming in contact with. And so one of the things we want to do every week is just a segment called I Will Follow. And all we're wanting to do is just share with you guys some of the people that we've met in social media, and we just want to recommend maybe you hitting them up and following them, engaging them on whatever social media that you can find them on. And in this case, it's all Twitter, I think, right, tonight?
It is, and we have this audacious goal, and I'm glad we're all sitting down for this.
Okay, I'm sitting.
We have this audacious goal that Star Wars fandom is a positive experience for people.
What?
I know, it's true. We want to be positive, inclusive, and affirming. I know that's crazy, ambitious, and lofty, but we're going for it. We're all in.
Okay.
You're out of here. I'm out of here.
Screw this. I'm all about negativity.
Take you and your hollow chest.
That's right. Take you yourself and your good vibes and leave.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to be mean. All right. Anyways, here's I Will Follow. So we want to throw out some people to you guys that are listening to the show, people that we think are worth following. So Devin, let's start with you. Who are some people that you would recommend to our audience to hit up in social
Well, listen,
media?
so I went with a theme this week, and my theme was creative Twitter handles. If you caught my eye with your Twitter handle, getting a little shout out right now. So I've got 3 that I'm throwing out there.
Okay, throw them.
Here are we got Sith Whip, which sounds like an amazing dessert, or well, I don't even want to say the other one.
No, just.
So
What's
Sith
the next
Whip,
one?
Yeah, the next one.
Moving on.
The next one is Chuchilla.
Oh, that's a good one.
Which is
That's good.
CHEWCHILLA. So Chuchilla, and then I don't want to rate them, but here's another great one. Like whoever thought of this, Chewbacca's comb.
That's brilliant.
I love that.
Brilliant.
Eve, who do you have?
Well, no, actually, I'm not going to say that. I was going to say my names weren't as good as yours, but I don't want to put them down.
Wah, wah.
Yeah.
And now for the consolation prize, here's Eve's follows.
I'm going to go with my very good friend, Laura Mac DB. That is her actual Twitter handle. She is based in Italy, and she's just about like the sweetest person that I've met in this fandom.
Nice.
She runs the Hamel Italy account, excuse me. So the majority of her tweets on there are in Italian, but I mean, I just follow anyway for the pictures. But
well, and you could like translate it too.
Yeah, I know all about just following things and
true.
reading things just for the article. So I'm with you.
Yeah. The second is my friend Carrie, who that is her actual name. She didn't, steal it because of Carrie Fisher. And she is at LaughOut41.
Okay.
She's good people.
Awesome.
And then I'm gonna suck up a little bit, and I'm gonna recommend Mr. Devin Cleffer.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a non-paid endorsement. That's amazing.
No, I genuinely like your Twitter.
Well,
I don't
thanks.
creep a lot of Twitters, but I have like maybe 15 to 20 people, and I definitely go to yours. So.
Well, that's good to know. Wow.
Oh, soft golf clap right there.
I think I'm stealing Jeremy's title of kind of a big deal.
Yes, I'm bringing it around.
Well, okay, you can take it. So it's it's Mr.
It's
Cleffer?
Mr. Cleffer. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Original.
Capital M, capital K.
Clever. Clever.
All right, well let's deflate your head and let's move on to the next thing.
So soon.
I thought we were just going to end the podcast with that. That would have been
Okay, we're out.
the climactic
Good night,
end.
folks.
Oh man. So, one of the things that is a constant, it's this sort of movement that is just always taking place within Star Wars fandom is just the collectible side of things. And there is products being, released all the time, and it's really difficult to keep up with. And in all seriousness, Brian at Jedi Scavenger has done an incredible job of just saying, here's some things to keep in mind. We're rolling up on this 40th anniversary of A New Hope.
Right.
And it's hard to believe. And so our Jedi Scavenger has come to us to just kind of let us know, here's what's going on in the world of collecting. So here's Jedi Scavenger.
You want this. don't you?
It's gonna cost you something extra. 10,000, all in advance.
10,000?
Star Wars podcasts are a great distraction from doing chores that you just don't want to do. You know, for instance, shoveling out almost 2 feet of snow up here in the Northeast. All kidding aside, we've got some great collecting news for you this week. On the good news front, the Mary Sue website published a report this week from Hasbro about Toyland equality and getting that balance that we always have really kind of strived for. Hasbro has taken a great leap forward in that arena. In their 2016 year-end earnings report this week, they announced that starting now, they'll no longer be reporting their revenue along gender lines. Beginning with the first quarter, and this is the official statement from Hasbro, beginning with the first quarter, we will no longer report revenue along the boys, games, girls, and preschool categories. Instead, we will provide a revenue breakdown of franchise brands, partner brands, Hasbro Gaming, and emerging brands. We believe this is a more relevant and appropriate view of our business. I couldn't agree more. That's just excellent news. Some more great news. Hasbro didn't stop there this week, and as I mentioned on last segment, we knew that Hasbro had some pretty good plans for the 40th anniversary of A New Hope. They announced 4 new offerings, and I don't think they're done yet, but this is a good glimpse into what we're looking at. So a lot of these are still centered around the Black Series line, which is the name, but not the Black Series figures and vehicles and whatnot that we've been used to getting at this point. So up first, a new line called the Black Series Centerpiece figures. The one that they unveiled is a $49.99, a little bit pricey, Luke Skywalker in his flight suit after crash landing on the Battle of Hoth in a very dynamic pose with a lightsaber. Now, the interesting thing here is the price point. And we have Luke in a great pose, but you can't pose him any other way. They did mention that there's some light up features, and it does look pretty cool, and they even made mention that there's additional foot pegs so that you can add additional Black Series figures in your collection and kind of create your own diorama. So we'll see about that. It looks like we're going to be getting that actually fall in 2017. Up next, we have another entry into the Force FX lightsabers, and it looks like we're going to be getting Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber. Retail price on that, $179.99. This was kind of the rumored thing that we knew about, but I still feel like there's more information to come. They also released information about the 3 3/4 inch figures. These actually happen to be in their titanium series, and they're actually die-cast figures. There's 5 figures so far. We have Darth Vader, Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, and Obi-Wan Kenobi as depicted in A New Hope. Now, these, again, are statues, and it does look like they're in a dynamic pose, and they have a double-sided backdrop that you can kind of flip around so you can actually combine all 5 of these together. Kind of interesting. Price point on those is $14.99, and actually we should probably see those this spring. And for all you Monopoly Star Wars fans out there, there's actually a 40th anniversary, and that's going to retail for $29.99. And finally, in the I Will Follow Collector's Edition, this week, I think you should follow Jake Stevens from 4lomtazukis.com. His Twitter handle is @4lomcuss, and his website has a laser blaster focus on Kenner and Hasbro Star Wars action figures. He's one half of the Toy Run podcast, the Star Wars Action Figure Cast. And quite honestly, 563 followers for Jake, that's just way too low. Jake's a great guy, a valuable resource in the Star Wars collecting community and just in the Star Wars fan community at large. So make sure you follow Jake this week. Happy hunting, and may the Force be with you. This has been Brian with JediScavenger.com.
I'm just a scavenger.
Jedi.
Scavenger.
Jedi.
Scavenger.
All right. So what'd you think?
Scavenger.
Well, I think the first thing that came to mind is it me or is Brian starting to sound a lot like Andy Rooney from 60 Minutes?
He brought it.
Yeah. I mean,
he was
channeling. Legit. When he first opened up there, I'm just like, Andy Rooney is back, and he's working for Unmistakably Star Wars.
It's like he got on a Ouija board. It's
this
like
was
Andy,
amazing,
and then like whoop.
amazing. And I think the other thing that stood out not only are we once again faced with this great challenge of so many things that don't fit within my budget, but it's just a good opportunity to remember that whenever a Star Wars film approaches, those sweatshops crank into overtime.
Bringing it back down.
Oh, come on.
Ouch.
Dun, dun, dun.
I don't know. I mean, just listening to just all the products, I think we're in this really. Do you think? I guess this is a question. I'm literally just listening to Brian's segment and just kind of considering what's happening in the world of collecting.
Yeah.
Is the market just going to get oversaturated? I mean, because right now you're seeing not only the clearance stuff from The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
We're going to start hitting clearance stuff from Rogue One.
Yeah.
And they've just announced another Force Friday for September, I believe, for Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Mm-hmm. So are we just going to keep getting these massive retail events? And is it going to get to the point where it backfires on like Hasbro, on all these manufacturers? I mean, what do you guys think? We need to get Brian on the show and ask him about that, because it seems to me like where does it end? Because it's getting out of control from my point of view.
I don't know that it's getting out of control from what I think it does is it gives everyone an entry point into collecting, right?
Mm-hmm,
I mean, you've got your less expensive stuff, you got your high-end stuff, like you got your sideshow collectible that, again, on the mantle, replaces the wedding portrait.
It did.
It did.
It does.
But I think what is interesting though is I'm curious if there's going to be so much out there. I think we've already passed that line of those who had like the original Kenners and stuff, right? And those people that were forward thinking enough to keep them hermetically sealed and in air conditioned, climate controlled vaults and stuff. I think there's so much stuff on the market now that we're not going to have another experience like that. So when those of us that have younger kids now, when they're our age and they're looking back on nostalgia and stuff, I don't think there's going to be the market like there is now. I think that stuff's going to be still so readily available that from a collecting standpoint to make profit down the road, I'm not sure it's going to be there. But as far as an opportunity for people to get Star Wars merch in their hands, these are the golden years.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Is there anything for all of you that like some sort of corner of collecting or the collectible, I guess, that you're like, hey, this is kind of my niche. This is what I want. For me, it's Obi-Wan. Like if I see something Obi-Wan Kenobi from any of the films, I'm snatching that up. But what about you guys? Is there some sort of area? And Devin, I know your answer, which is
3PO.
Phasma.
Yeah.
Did you really? Eve, really? Wow. All right. Okay, let's make fun of the clever C-3PO. No, it won't be C-3PO. If it's obviously I'm hook, line, and sinker for the great Captain Phasma. I'm looking forward to the Episode 8 die-cast that comes out with her, which is just a metal cube from her time in the trash compactor. But
I'm curious, why Phasma?
Well, I think they pushed it and promoted it. It looked like to be such an incredibly awesome character, and then it was like just letting the helium out of a balloon, this like thing that was just like, it was horrible. Yeah, so I stuck with her, and then I invested so much energy and money into it. I'm just like, hey, come look at the world's greatest collection of the Star Wars character that never was.
She'll be back for episode.
She will be.
Yeah, which is weird, but yeah.
Yeah, and you can't. Well, I think for just a second, Gwendolyn Christie, who plays Phasma, she's so amazing on Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
That I think everyone was just expecting sort of a kind of a character that would be more present. You know, and we didn't get that. So, but I think it's going to happen in 8. Keep the hope alive, Devin. Keep it alive, man.
Sure, I'll keep it alive.
Sure. What about the rest of you? I mean, is there something, a little corner in the market that you're like, this is my thing. This is what I want to collect?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm a sucker for all the Lego Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love not necessarily a particular character that they do, but what are they? They're like 12 to, I think General Grievous is like 16 inches tall.
The figures
that you build out of Legos.
Mm-hmm.
They are so fun.
Eve, what about you?
I'm kind of anything Luke. I know that's so biased.
Huh. You should start a Twitter something or another with that.
I know.
That's brilliant.
I don't have a lot, though. And I think the thing with collecting is I kind of have this guilt associated with it.
Yep.
That I don't have this huge Star Wars collection. And when I see other people's collections, I'm like, God, where would I even start?
Yeah.
It wouldn't even, it's too much.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let me ask this question, just as a Luke Skywalker fan and follower, do you have something in your possession that's sort of like your favorite, your Luke thing,
your Linus blanket?
What is it? What is it?
I sure do. Well, eventually I want the new Sideshow figure of him that's coming out from The Force Awakens, because that is just ridiculous and amazing. But I have him in the Bacta tank.
Is that next to your bed, or?
It is.
It's like a lava lamp. That's great.
It's on the top shelf. So
okay.
Does it light up?
No, I mean you can fill it with water and he'll float inside of it. But I'm one of those.
We've got to. We're sending you some waterproof LEDs you can just toss in there and light that sucker up.
So wait, who made it? Like, is it a Sideshow thing, or is it something else?
So it's actually Hasbro.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Hasbro.
And it's Luke Skywalker in Echo Base Bacta tank.
Oh wow.
Nice.
Yeah, mine's my Obi-Wan, my Sideshow collectible Episode 4 Obi-Wan that's prominently featured on my Star Wars bookshelf. So. Devin, what is yours? Like, I'm looking. I mean, we're in the studio at your house.
My prized possession.
Yeah, I mean, like, what is yours? What is the
my prized possession is it's a giant-sized Marvel #1 Star Wars comic.
Yeah,
and here's the story behind that. It was only $1 in 1977, which is amazing in itself. Yeah. But so my mom's best friend accidentally locked herself out of the house, and she told me that if I went through the very dark and scary garage, I'm 5 years old at the time, but if I went through the window and through the dark and scary garage, went in the house and unlocked the door from the inside, that she would buy me that comic book. And I was motivated.
Yes, you were.
Yes. So I'm just like, I'll take whatever's in the dark. I will take it on.
Bring it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that is proudly matted and framed and hangs in the studio.
That's beautiful, man. That's a good story.
Yeah.
I actually do have 2 Star Wars pop-up books from the 1980s if you ever want to come over and read them.
Will you read them to me?
Sure. Sure. We'll have to prime out of my son's hands.
Music in the background.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just want to break in here.
Yeah.
I am doing some searching, and we do have a Star Wars Power of the Jedi Luke Skywalker and Echo Base Bacta tank new in package on eBay for $24.99.
Whoa.
Yep. What? I paid $27.95 from Amazon, but I'm okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's Luke. I mean, there's no price. No price.
And I actually asked Mark Hamill on Twitter, I said, if I buy this, you better like that tweet. And he ended up liking it. And
That's
brilliant. I was just like, all right, I feel vindicated.
You are vindicated, validated, and vindicated. All right, let's get into the show. On this episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about Rebels Season 3. They've recently released just episode descriptions, but what was interesting is they released the episode descriptions for the last really 3 episodes, and that's what we'll be talking about. Not only that, is there is an announcement from StarWars.com about a new comic book crossover event, Dr. Aphra and the lead Star Wars, the main title, and Marvel, and so they'll be crossing over, and we'll talk about what that story's about and just some of the details and the direction they're taking that comic in. And then finally, StarWars.com has updated some of their character profiles, and 2 of which is Kylo Ren and Rey. And some of the things that they've updated are quite interesting. So we'll talk about that. And then in our closer look segment tonight, we're going to look at a topic that isn't talked about much when it comes to Star Wars. It's normally other things people talk about, but we're going to be looking at leadership. And it is obviously a big issue in our world today. It always has been. And in Star Wars, we see all types of leaders. And so we're going to talk about who the great leaders are in Star Wars. And so that will be our closer look segment. So after this break, we'll come back and we'll jump into the news.
I have good news for you, my lord.
That's so interesting.
Wait, there's something very weak coming through.
wrong if my Orlando Celebration cosplay would just be like Luke in the giant diaper from the Back to Tank?
and kind of like could get someone dressed up like 2-1B just following you around.
Yeah, well, I could do like the Back to Tank like they did in the Karate Kid, like they did with the shower thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's so gross.
Oh my God.
Seriously, I'm so bummed we gave our tickets. It hurts my soul.
Hey, if I do that, Jackie, will you take a picture and ask Hamill to like that tweet?
Yes. Yes. I will take a picture regardless.
Oh, nice. Oh, gosh. We've devolved into something else entirely. All right. So recently, just tons of different sources were running, the story about episode descriptions for this third season of Rebels, this last set of episodes. But it really kind of, you trace it back to Jedi Bibliothek. And they... I think they're a German site. They have been doing excellent stuff for a long time. And they, I think, originally broke this, and then everyone picked it up. A lot of those sites didn't even cite these guys, but that's really where it came from. And so here is sort of the episode descriptions that came out. And you have your basic. We know that the story was heading toward Mandalore based on where we hit the hiatus a few weeks ago.
Right.
And so episode 16 is called The Legacy of Mandalore. It says the description is hoping to get her family to help the rebels. Sabine returns home with Kanan and Ezra and finds herself embroiled in her family's power struggle for Mandalore. That's episode 16. 17 is Through Imperial Eyes. It is fearing that the identity of a rebel spy will soon be discovered by the Empire. The rebels launch a plan to rescue him before he is caught. Episode 18 is called Secret Cargo. When a routine refueling mission goes wrong, the Ghost crew find themselves transporting an important rebel leader across the galaxy pursued by Imperial warships. Then episode 19 is Double Agent Droid. Chopper and AP-5 team up to infiltrate an Imperial station to steal needed codes, but an Imperial specialist turns the droids against the crew to cause chaos. And then here's the good one. Episode 20, Twin Suns. That episode will be on March 18th. It's the one. It's an episode that this guy right here is excited for. There's the description reacting to a vision of Maul. Ezra defies Hera and Kanan to travel to a remote planet, Tatooine, in hopes of stopping the former Sith Lord from carrying out his plans. I wonder if we'll see Luke in that. That'd be interesting. So Eve, you might have to tune in for that one. And then the last, I'm assuming they'll put these two together. It's listed as being on March 25th, so a good few weeks before Star Wars Celebration. You have 0 Hour, Part 1 and Part 2. And here's the descriptions for those two parts. In the first part, it says, in final preparations for their attack on Lothal, Phoenix Squadron's plans are disrupted when Grand Admiral Thrawn discovers their location. And then in 0 Hour Part 2, trapped on Atollon with the rebel base under siege, Hera and Kanan fight to keep the squadron alive as Ezra attempts to rally help from an unexpected source. I wonder who that is. So just in general, what are your thoughts just reading through, seeing these descriptions as we finish out Rebels Season 3?
Well, I think it's, if nothing else is clear, I think the home stretch between here and Celebration Orlando is going to be crazy. I mean, with a K and a backwards R.
I mean, let's pause for a second. Like, seriously though, we have Empire's End coming out next week.
Yep.
That is going to be discussion material for a good month and a half.
Right.
Plus, I mean, my guess, my estimation is we're going to learn a lot more about Jakku because we know the story on the cover. It shows the Star Destroyer crashing into Jakku, so we'll really get a good look into the Battle of Jakku that's really been glossed over in other places. So we have that. Then we have these Rebels episodes that are literally running us right up shoulder to shoulder with Star Wars Celebration. And then of course you have the Thrawn
comes out that day.
I mean, it's just going to be so much to talk about. I'm curious, for all of you, is there an episode that sort of jumps out at you as like, okay, this is intriguing to me? I mean, obviously for me it's the Obi-Wan stuff, but I'm curious where you guys land on that.
I think for me, when we start talking about Twin Suns, obviously we have a good idea of where that's headed with Obi-Wan and Maul and perhaps Ezra. And like you said earlier, Jeremy, perhaps Luke. We don't know at this point. Yeah. Certainly that would be mind-blowing if that happened. Thou shalt be epic.
Yeah.
And I think that it's not. I guess it's not a big surprise because certainly a lot of people said that it's not going to be the finale, but it's going to be before the finale. I guess I'm a little disappointed though. It's not at least like a double episode.
Yeah, give me as much Obi-Wan.
Yeah. But other than that, I think that when we start talking, we go down to the 2-part finale there, and we start talking about 0 Hour. That just kind of brings out the ex-military person in me, and that really kind of stokes my fire.
Just. There's going to be a lot that happens, I think. And just...
0 Hour, for those that don't have the military background, right? That's like at the time that the mission begins.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So whatever's going to happen begins right there.
Yeah. And whose 0 Hour is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it the Empire's 0 Hour?
Yeah.
Is Thrawn's movement to wipe them out? And, and I lean that way.
Yeah.
I love that title. You know what? In looking at this this group of episodes, there is only one that I'm like, okay. And that is literally episode 19, Double Agent Droid.
I knew you were going to go there.
I love Chopper, I love AP5, but that's the episode before Twin Suns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, okay, skip that. Get to Obi-Wan, and I'm just a huge Obi-Wan fan, but yeah, that's the episode where it's hard for me to get kind of pumped up for that one. I do find the Sabine stuff. Sabine is now becoming my favorite character besides Kanan on the show, and she might even surpass Kanan if she keeps developing the way she is. She's really captivating, and her character, there's a depth to her that is really refreshing on Rebels, especially after this last episode before the hiatus. I'm really, really excited about that. But for me, whatever about, the finale, great. Let's see Thrawn in action. I like Thrawn, but I'm telling you, I've always gravitated to sort of the mystical side of Star Wars. Twin Suns is where it's at. I'm really thrilled about that.
Is episode 17 Through Imperial Eyes? Again, here's the quick synopsis. Fearing that the identity of a rebel spy will soon be discovered by the Empire, the rebels will launch a plan to rescue him before he's gone. Are we talking
Callus?
About Callus?
Yeah.
I would assume so.
Yeah, we're talking Callus, and I'm wondering if he's going to make it. There has to be a price paid this season. We sort of got that with Ahsoka in season 2, but the verdict is still out if she made it or not. I mean, we just don't know.
Right.
And so, I mean, if you want to continue to have people buy into it, whether you're like a teenager or 12 years old or 42 like me, I think you need to like show that there are stakes and there is prices paid. I mean, it's very much like I know the arguments against Rogue One of like, well, it was just too much of a downer, but I think you need to have some type of evidence that stakes are being put up.
Of course.
And I guess you got that. I guess someone could come back and say, well, Jeremy, I mean, what happened to Kanan? And I guess what happened to him at the end of season 2, I mean, that was a big price that he paid. But, I think at some point, I hate to say it this way, I think some people are going to have to die. And I wonder if Callus in that episode might be the first and to show Thrawn means business.
Yeah, maybe so. I'd love to know what Eve's, Beks, what do you guys think? Good. Well said. I think that's awesome. Yeah.
I'm afraid to throw a bunch of stuff out there because I don't know.
Well, what would you like to see?
Yeah,
what would you like to see?
Having never seen Rebels, but reading the synopsis of it and knowing how season 2 ended with the up in the air if Ahsoka is still alive or not. My question to you guys is, if Ezra attempts to rally help from an unexpected source, what if they brought Ahsoka back and she's that unexpected source? Would you feel let down? Would you be like, that was a lame scapegoat and like that was an easy way out? Or would you be stoked that she's back in the series?
I think we're not going to see Ahsoka. I really don't see. I think we're going to get if it was her, I think part of me would be really excited. I don't know. I don't think it's her, but I would be excited. But I would have a million questions. Like wait a minute. Like with what happened with her and Vader, I don't know. So I think it's going to be Hondo. I think that's who he gets. I think he gets him and some other just goofballs, and they're going to come in at the end. Or it might be some bounty hunters. And you might see the reintroduction of characters like Boba Fett, Cad Bane. I mean, I don't know. It'd be interesting.
I hope it's not Hondo. I really do.
Yeah, okay.
Would they be esoteric like that if it was bounty hunters coming back?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean,
I don't know. I'm checking dictionary.com for esoteric. Hold on. Is that T-E-R-I-C? Understood or meant for only the select few who have special knowledge or interest. Oh, okay. Ask your question again.
No.
I didn't realize I dropped in on the Unmistakably SAT prep course. No, okay. It's a valid question. So I ask it again, and I'll refrain from.
Would whomever writes the episode descriptions for future Rebels episodes, would they be so esoteric about this incoming character or characters if they were bounty hunters? Or would that be something to keep secretive, essentially?
Yeah, and just based on that question, I think...
I don't think they're just going to drop. Like when they say unexpected source, I don't think with the conclusion with Thrawn coming, and we just got off the heels of Obi-Wan and Maul, I doubt they're just going to like throw somebody blow our minds entirely. Unexpected is kind of an ambiguous word, but...
So let's list who it could be. Because what you would need, I think Eve's right. I mean, based on her question alone, you don't just throw some, even though they're known maybe from film or Clone Wars or whatever. Right. I don't think you just throw them in. You need to build to that within the season. Yeah. So we've seen Hondo.
Right.
We've seen Ahsoka from season 2.
Yeah.
Princess Leia.
Potentially.
Season 2. I mean, she was in season 2. I mean, and Ezra had
Lando. I don't know.
Oh, maybe Lando. Yeah,
maybe.
Well, wait a minute. Did he say he was voicing stuff for season? I have to go back and look. That would be really interesting. Yeah, Lando
that would be an unexpected source.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What was the name? And maybe it's Hondo, and I just don't know. But what was the name of the Force neutral?
Oh, the Bindu.
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 Now that, and he's on the planet.
Yeah.
So that could be.
Who knows?
Yeah. It'll be fun to find out who that be.
See, I don't think Hondo. I don't put Hondo in the unexpected thing.
Yeah.
I would almost expect that because Ezra's turned to him before.
Yeah, true.
So I just like he's played that card.
Might be the Bindu. Yeah.
Maybe.
Good one, Beks. That's a good one. Yeah.
So we'll start our pool, $5 buy-in. See who it is.
Who is the unexpected source?
And for the $10 bonus round, define esoteric.
So, Devin,
it's my last episode.
She's gone, man. We've lost Eve. Do you think Obi-Wan? Do you think Obi-Wan kills Maul? I mean, here's the description one last time, and then we'll move on. But just reacting to a vision of Maul, Ezra defies Hera and Kanan to travel to a remote planet in hopes of stopping the former Sith Lord from carrying out his plans. Do you think Obi-Wan ends him?
Again?
Yeah.
What will the reaction be when he sees him again? Direction. I don't know. That'll be interesting. Gosh, I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're ready for that.
We've got the new Maul comic, so who knows?
But the Maul comic is like pre-Phantom Menace.
Okay, so see, I haven't even opened it. It's still in its package over there. So I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, this character, and we've been down this road many times as well as other folks too. But I think the character had so much potential. I was never sold on the. I'm keeping myself alive despite being chopped in half.
Yeah.
I think it's time for him to meet his
for
demise.
Him to go?
Yeah.
How he goes though, I'm curious about.
Well, and so you wouldn't want to see peace between Obi-Wan and Maul.
Me?
Yeah.
Hell no.
So no reconciliation.
No
peace.
How is that going to happen? Maul is so thirsty for completing his vengeance and stuff. Like he's not thirsty for like, I really want to sit down with some hot tea and talk it out with Obi-Wan.
I think Dave Filoni and crew are gonna. Now he might die, and it might be a very, because of combat. I don't know, but I have a feeling he will meet his demise. But I think it's going to be quite surprising.
So you don't think it'll be an Obi-Wan thing?
No.
Are we gonna like?
Ezra?
I think it's gonna be Ezra. Yeah. So, but here's the real question: are we going to see little Luke? Well, actually, he won't be little. He'll be 17.
Yeah, he'll be like getting his T16 license.
That would be really interesting if we'll see or hear. I don't know if I want to see Luke.
You got to make up your mind, man.
Well, okay, damn it, I'm making it up. I don't want to see him.
Oh, well, there you go.
I want the Aunt Beru Luke to be the kind of the first moment, the Mark Hamill moment, and obviously we see him as an infant.
So do we want to see Beru? I'm down for seeing Beru.
You are kind of a Beru fan.
I love me some Beru.
Oh gosh, let's move on. So Dr. Aphra and Star Wars Marvel crossover. StarWars.com announced this crossover that's going to be happening between the comic book titles Dr. Aphra and the main lead title Star Wars. And so in the interview, it was Jason Aaron, one of the writers of the comics, along with Kieran Gillen, who both guys have written some amazing stuff. But it's interesting as they were asking, well, what is this comic? What is this crossover about? Here's what Jason Aaron said. It said it starts with Aphra and Luke together, which is a pairing we really didn't see at all in Vader Down. And if you don't know what Vader Down was, it was the first crossover event. It had its own standalone entry issue. It was just called Vader Down #1, and then it went between the Darth Vader comic and the Star Wars comic. And it was really good. And so Jason Aaron says, we haven't really seen that see it all in Vader Down, and that really drives the story Luke and Aphra together. That's probably been the most fun part for me so far, reading what Kieran did with those two characters together in the Darth Vader series, and then carrying on from that. It starts with them venturing into a very dark and scary situation on a faraway alien planet, and winding up in the clutches of a sinister alien queen.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it's going to be pretty much a horror story. What's the title again? I just lost it.
The Screaming Citadel.
Yeah, the Screaming Citadel is the title of this crossover event, and they've already released some art from the comics, and you can find that interview on StarWars.com. And Kieran Gillen talked about just the horror angle, and he said it pretty much starts in a bar, which is as Star Wars as it gets. So it's very grounded. We recognize it's Star Wars. Then we travel with Luke and Aphra, and we go to this place. It's instantly a Star Wars take on the trope of doing a village, and there's a really weird castle up on the hill, and it's a bit suspicious. And they arrive there, and the people seem very friendly, but something's definitely off. You know what I mean? You understand the tropes, then you go, okay, how can we make them feel Star Wars? That's putting the twist on it. In terms of the horror aspects of the book, which I'm being a bit sheepish around, it's like, how can we get something that feels like that, but then also have it be in Star Wars? And so I'm curious, just your thoughts on this crossover event. And then I want to talk a little bit about genre in a minute, but what did you guys, is this a type of comic that's intriguing to you guys?
Yes, I'm waiting for the Mystery Machine to show up.
Oh,
and
yes.
Wasn't for your kids and your stupid Wookiee.
Oh, Jar Jar would be a great Scooby, wouldn't he?
Man.
Oh, man.
He'd be great.
He'd be so perfect. And so I am definitely curious to see how it's all going to play out. I really liked the Dr. Aphra and Vader mashup. I really liked her character.
Yeah.
I haven't read her standalone series, but I really liked where they were going with her and who she was.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how they put her and Luke together.
Yeah, that's going to be a fascinating, just pairing, because Luke's so different from Aphra in every way. I mean, they're good foils for one another. What do you guys think? I mean, is this something you want to see?
Yeah, I think
definitely.
I think it'll be interesting. It will be curious, because if we look at Luke, it's well into the story that we know through cinema that he has a certain naivete. Even through the end of A New Hope, there's a certain naivete about him. And Dr. Aphra doesn't impress me as someone that has a whole lot of naivete about her. She seems like a well-seasoned vet.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to be totally interesting to see how those two kind of come together and what their challenges are. And how maybe they actually benefit from one another and propel one another. So that's going to be an interesting combo.
Eve, you said you were interested in seeing this. What's compelling to you about it?
Well, I definitely agree with what Beks and Devin said completely. I am a big fan of Vader Down. Yeah. And just the idea of smashing them two characters together and then throwing in clutches of a sinister alien queen. My brain just explodes. With Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
So I think that would be really interesting or compelling.
One thing I was trying to figure out is where does this fit in the storyline?
I'm not sure yet, and it might be in the interview, but I am not.
I couldn't find it in the interview, but it talks about Luke is still trying to become a Jedi, so I wasn't sure if he had already met with Yoda.
Yeah, I think
first time.
I think it's still before. Okay. I think it's still before
because then it talks about how it's going to bring in Leia and Han and Chewbacca, and they're all going to make an appearance. And I was thinking, if this is after his initial meeting with Yoda, then Han is in carbonite.
Yeah,
how is he going to show up?
As of now, Lucasfilm has really stayed away from the time period of Empire between Empire and Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering why. I think they have something really big planned down the road. I think also that there might be some things that come out in Episode 8 that kind of feed into that time period as well. But there's not many novels. There's not many stories, period. It's just sort of this...
They're saving it.
They are. And the question is, well, for what?
Right.
Like, what's coming? And it might be a standalone movie down the road. I don't know. But I've always found that very, very interesting. They're just kind of playing in the sandbox between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. Yeah. And so, that's my guess is that it's before Empire. I'll try to look into that and, make some notes in the show notes on our site. Let me ask this question, though, because it does bring up something interesting to think about, is moving into sort of Star Wars and another like genre. Star Wars is its own thing, obviously, but kind of blending in, kind of how Rogue One blended in with sort of the military war film.
Right.
You have Star Wars blending in with sort of the horror, genre. Is there any like genre that you're like, I would love to see Star Wars play in this? And of course, like Bloodline was politics. I mean, it was still probably my favorite book.
Yeah. No, it was solid. No doubt about it.
So what about you guys? I mean, where do you land when it comes to genre? Is there a certain one that really you're like, please let Star Wars go?
Yeah, I'd love, and I don't even know what the plot would be, but I would love to see something that, is part mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, something that's very Agatha Christie-esque, but also has kind of the rhythm of an Indiana Jones thing that maybe explores some ancient lore of some sort. So Agatha Christie, Indiana Jones meets Star Wars, however that would play itself out, I don't know. That and give me like a spy thriller too.
That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Want that.
Yeah. Spy thriller would be really good.
Yeah, give me, something in who's the guy that writes all the spy thrillers? Clancy? Clancy does a lot of them. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's a hard one. Where do you guys land?
I like the idea of a mystery, something like Murder, She Wrote.
And Yoda's Angela Lansbury.
Just throwing it old school.
Maybe a little MacGyver.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So we're just Angela Lansbury and MacGyver. What a crossover that would be. That'd be epic.
I'm
picturing Angela Lansbury like defusing bombs with bubble gum would be epic.
What do I have in my purse?
Let's throw in a little bit of Golden Girls in there.
And they all ride around in the mystery machine.
Yeah,
so it's good.
Nice. It's good.
Wow.
You're welcome.
Eve, save us. What genre would you like to see?
You know what? Now that I threw Ridley Scott's Aliens out there, I'm kind of just picturing some sort of, I don't know, alien like xenomorph mashup.
Yeah,
I've actually seen artwork with Vader.
I have seen that too.
It's pretty slick.
That was ridiculous. But I don't know. I feel like the really sinister, evil kind of. I'm not like a huge fan of gore. I'm a total wuss when it comes to like slasher films.
Yeah.
But like, give me some sort of psychological thriller. Like, throw my brain into it, and I would just. Oh my gosh! And lightsabers, I would never leave.
Yeah. Be good.
Lightsabers and zombies.
No.
I don't like zombies.
You know what I would love to see, and it would be a genre. I don't even know if this is like the samurai genre.
Yeah.
You know, sort of the Kurosawa feel. I mean, obviously Star Wars is infused a lot of Kurosawa stuff, but I would love to see a kind of the concept, you know, the old 1950s Western Shane, and then Clint Eastwood did something similar in the 1980s called Pale Rider. I would love sort of this mysterious Jedi on a planet that shows up, and there's all this mystery around him and who he is. Is he
just brings justice?
And he brings justice to a situation, and maybe he's like a fallen Jedi or something, but some sort of like, but with heavy samurai, like it's not guns that they, you know, it's lightsabers, and he ends up fighting against, you know, I don't know, some sort of Sith element, like something old, like Old Republic story.
Yeah.
And I would love to see something like that. I remember at one point, who's the director of Man of Steel? And he did 300. Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder was talking about doing a Seven Samurai set in Star Wars. Sort of like a Magnificent Seven, but with like these seven Jedi, and it just fits. And I would love to see something like that. The mystical side of Star Wars, I say it all the time, it's what is really compelling to me. And that's what I would love to see something like that. I'm really curious with the comics, what they'll keep exploring and doing, because there's just a lot of freedom within that, and I wonder if it is something that the filmmakers and that side, the film division of Lucasfilm, they're kind of paying attention to see what's hitting and resonating with people, and having those conversations.
Well, I mean, they would be foolish not to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good sounding board, I think, for these ideas. Speaking of just characters and genre and just you know, revelations that come through that, there's been a lot going on StarWars.com, not only with the interview we just talked about with the two authors, Jason Aaron and Karen Gillan, but also there's been these updates. And Elaine Tveit, who writes for Dork Side of the Force, she had in one of her blogs, she pointed out, I think I found it first on Twitter and then went to her blog, but she basically said, hey, there's some updates to the bios of both. She said there's an update to the bio of Kylo Ren, and she commented on it. And then it's obvious that there's some updates on Rey as well. And I just wanted to point out, here's what the bio says for Kylo Ren now. So I'm going to read it, and then I would love to hear your comments. It says this: Kylo Ren, a dark side warrior with a mysterious past. He was neither Jedi nor Sith, but a product of both sides' teachings. Once an apprentice of Luke Skywalker's, he killed his fellow students and drove Skywalker into exile, becoming a First Order warlord and servant of Supreme Leader Snoke. Kylo was determined to destroy the last remnants of the Jedi, fulfilling the legacy of Darth Vader. Snoke warned Kylo that there had been an awakening in the Force, and his apprentice would face a test when he confronted his father. Kylo swore his loyalties were only to Snoke, but he was intrigued when he captured Rey, a Jakku scavenger whose Force abilities were raw but very powerful. And then here's the line: a mysterious connection seemed to link the two. It goes on and says Kylo faced his father inside the First Order's Starkiller base and struck Han down with his lightsaber. And here's what's interesting. It says, but this shocking act of patricide didn't make the former Ben Solo feel stronger. Somehow he felt weaker. Rey then bested Kylo in a lightsaber duel, sparing his life. Kylo Ren had hoped to end the conflicts that caused him so much pain, but found he remained at war with himself and more lost than ever. All right, here it's to you guys. What'd you think?
Yeah, well, I think those are some interesting nuances in language. I think, you know, even just listening to it is a little bit different than just reading through it myself. And I'm really fascinated by, in this first part that you brought up, Jeremy, when it talks about Kylo Ren, he killed his fellow students, and then this is the part that really stuck with me is drove Skywalker into exile, which is very different than kind of, I think, the feeling that The Force Awakens give us, that Luke kind of just took off.
Yeah.
But that it wasn't so much that he took off as he was forced into exile, which is very different as far as the motivations, in my opinion. And I think some of the other things that stood out, of course, when it comes to, this mysterious connection between he and Rey, and then I'm super fascinated by how it kind of wraps up there toward the end about killing Han Solo caused him so much pain. He remained at war with himself, more lost than ever. And I find that so fascinating because I think it plays beautifully into Han Solo's kind of soliloquy there, as far as like, that Snoke doesn't want you for your power.
Yeah.
And isn't it interesting how sometimes we pursue the thing that we think that we want the most and expect to get what we have envisioned in our mind, and then we get there and it's not like we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
No.
So I think that's totally interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out on the film.
Yeah. Other thoughts?
All right, I'll go.
Yeah, jump in.
I thought the bio was pretty generic, aside from the things that you mentioned. Although the product of both sides' teachings, are they saying that from a genetic standpoint, or was he? Because I wouldn't imagine that Luke Skywalker would teach him any parts of the dark side that would kind of, I don't know, seduce him or allure him, essentially. I don't think that knowing his history and the family's history as a whole, that kind of really jumped out at me.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see. I'm going to just kind of dovetail on what Jackie said. Damn it. I'm just going to jump in and dovetail on what Eve said. It's going to be interesting to see where and how this obsession with Darth Vader really starts to, take over Kylo Ren's life. I'm assuming that that's where he kind of like starts kind of walking that fine line or meandering back and forth between what Luke is teaching him and his fascination with his grandfather. Because, think about, like, what is that like if you're the grandson of Darth Vader and you're hearing stories, some of it perhaps from your family, some of it just like out there on the streets, so to speak, about who he was. And obviously, Darth Vader's a fairly well-known dude throughout the galaxy. So there's going to be all kinds of chatter or whatever else going on out there. And I think it'd be pretty natural for someone to like want to find out more. And who knows, but working with young adults, I can fairly confidently say like they will go one way 1 minute, and then if something else looks appealing the next, they're swaying to the other side. So I think that could potentially be, whether it's in book or cinema form, a pretty interesting deal.
Yeah. Well, I think there's definitely probably a romance to it as far as
romanticized.
Romanticized, and where it makes it the stories, and even like, imagining Luke telling him about his father, Kylo's grandfather, and being like, yes, he was all of these terrible things, but in the end, he was a good man.
But him just latching onto the other stuff.
And him, he was a good man, and then kind of working backwards the way Luke worked forwards through it, where my dad is this horrible, evil villain, and then he worked through that to that, but there's still good in him, and I can feel it. Where Kylo kind of goes the opposite direction, where he's like, okay, there was good in him, which means I need to beat that out of myself. And
what if he sees it as an opening? I'm sorry.
No, go.
What if he kind of sees it as I can do so wrong for so long, but eventually I'll have that redemption that my grandfather had.
Oh.
So I get to explore this incredible Sith power, but I can still come back in the end.
Right.
Yeah, I think that leads me to this question that I've been considering is this character, Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, is he being positioned to be one of the most complex characters Star Wars has seen?
So where are you coming at from that when you're defining complexity? How are you defining that?
Yeah, so here's a character that obviously his backstory is not that well known yet. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
He is incredibly gifted. He is a student of one of the greatest Jedi ever. He probably showed incredible gifts, abilities, but he also probably, my guess is he did some really good things when he was with Luke. And there's that moment in Bloodline where Leia is like, I wish Luke were here, but he and my son are off doing something, and they're on some sort of mission together, and she can't find him or contact him or anything like that. So we know that they were probably in peril together. And so we have this kind of this fall from grace kind of concept. But then you have he's intact physically. He's not like Anakin. When Anakin turned to Vader, he was destroyed physically. Yeah. Right. So even though he has this scar on his face from his battle with Rey, I mean, he's not destroyed physically. He's been wounded. He's dealing with incredible guilt. And at the same time, he has this empowering desire to destroy good things. Yet he feels guilty. The light is constantly encroaching in on him. I mean, he has that moment where he has that sort of monologue with the helmet, right?
Right.
And so he's wrestling with these two sides, and we're watching him wrestle with it. We don't see Vader wrestle with the light and the dark until Return of the Jedi. He's just this force of nature. And this evil force of nature. And so we're getting that struggle from the get-go with him on film. And I just find that really compelling, where you have this guy wavering back and forth. And what if he does do something in episode 8 that's good while he's continuing to do evil? Like, that will be really confusing. It'd be confusing to an audience, but I think that adds the complexity to this character, and I think there'll be a lot of people that resonate with that.
I was going to say, I think there's a lot of things we can identify with that, because I think a lot of us vacillate between doing things that are like good and worthwhile, and like sometimes we do things that are totally self-serving, whether harmful to ourselves or harmful to others, whether intentionally or unintentionally.
Well, you made that comment about students. Some of the most talented students I've ever taught, that are great leaders, they vacillate. Like one minute they're doing the most amazing things where I'm like, oh my gosh, it's sort of inspiring me. And the next thing I hear something they've done that's like, what?
Yeah.
Wait, you did what?
Who are you?
Yeah. Why did you do that? Are you sure you need me to come bail you out of jail?
Right.
And I mean, and there are moments, I've had tons of moments like that. I mean, there's been probably, in my career as an educator and as a football coach, I've probably seen 15 to 20 kids with incredible talent just piss it away. And then come back and then go back. It's just like, I think it will resonate with a lot of people if we can continue to see that playing out. So I think he is. But I'm curious what you think. And when I say I think he is positioned to be one of the most complex characters within Star Wars. Are you buying into that? Or are you guys more like the verdict's still out, let's wait and see?
Well, I wanted to ask real fast on your comment, if Kylo does something in episode 8 that's good, how it would affect the audience as a whole.
Yeah.
Would it matter if it was before he went to the dark side or after? Would that change the opinion? Or possibly?
So are you saying like in a flashback? Like you see him do so? Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be, I think, that's where I think the complexity that shows up is like, if you see him do something like kind and generous and like just heroic, even if it's in flashback, that makes his fall incredibly, like, it just makes it even more tragic, but it starts to give you empathy.
Yeah.
Even though he's killed, because right now what you're getting within fandom, generally speaking, at least from what my ears hear, and I could be wrong, is there's not a lot of people saying they want Kylo to be redeemed. They're like, screw that dude, he killed Han, like he needs to die, And I think that's normal, but for me personally, I think it just fits with Star Wars for some sort of redemptive kind of arc to this character. I think it's going to come at a cost. I think it's going to come at a cost of his life.
Yeah, I don't know if he can be redeemed unless it's with his life.
Yeah.
We know there was so much pushback and negativity towards, through film, how many people perceived Anakin's change so quick.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if the story group's taking note of that, and they're going to say, okay, let's play this out for a little while And so we have the opportunity to see this character actually vacillate between good and evil, and we actually get to witness this journey this time, which if we take the Clone Wars out of it, then I can see how people would be super frustrated with what seemed to be on celluloid, a very quick change to the dark side. So I wonder if that is any part of the strategy at all with it.
Yeah, it'll be it's going to be fun to watch, especially as we get into this celebration time period that's coming up in the next couple months, and like I'm sure we'll see some stuff, some images, and hopefully a trailer soon. It's going to be really interesting to see what they show us of Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
Well, and I think to answer your question, I think that the jury's out.
Yeah.
I think that there's possibility to see the complexity of that, because that's one of the things that I think Star Wars has flirted with, but we haven't really, I don't think, driven down to the psyche of a lot of the characters.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting if this is kind of the time where we actually, like I said, see that journey play itself out and delve further into the psyche. We've gone a little bit below the surface before, but I think there's an opportunity to go deep.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. Well, let's take a break. And when we come back, we might even have some overlap in these conversations a little bit, because we're going to be talking about leadership within Star Wars. So we'll come back right after this break.
And now, back to Unmistakably Star Wars.
All right, so this is our Closer Look segment. And in this segment this week, we're going to be talking about leadership. And obviously, when you just look around, whether it's social media, the internet, I mean, we're dealing with what's real news and what's fake news.
Wow.
We're dealing with so many troubling things that are happening in our world. And we've always dealt with this, and we always will deal with this, is who is leading us, and are they a good leader? And one of the things that I think is fun about Star Wars, that one of the fun things, but also one of the meaningful and worthwhile things that Star Wars does, is it helps you sort of like process through some of the things you're seeing in your own world,
right,
based on some of the things that are going on in that world. And so our big question tonight for our Closer Look is, leadership in Star Wars. Like, who are the great leaders of Star Wars, and like, what even makes a great leader? Maybe we should even just start there. And what are some of the great moments of leadership from Star Wars films and books? So I'm going to throw it to you guys. Whoever wants to chime in and get started, you can pick anything, anywhere you want to start, whatever you want to do when it comes to leadership.
Wow.
It's a whole lot of freedom.
Yeah. Just giving it all. Freedom. Wow. Boom. What do you guys think?
How esoteric of you.
Was that used correctly, Devin?
I don't know, but I said it anyway. It's like we're playing the match game. That's tonight's password. The password is esoteric. All right.
It's a ringtone, Eve. Yeah. That's a ringtone right there.
I'm just gonna throw this out there. I think leadership wise, we're looking at something that to me is compelling, and I'm not saying that I would follow this as an example, but as far as compelling leaders, I think Palpatine / Sidious is just brilliant tactician when it comes to how almost easily he manipulated a Senate and manipulated, or at least clouded, the Jedi Order. I mean, like, bravo. Sheev. Yeah. Well played, Sheev.
Yeah.
I know.
Awfully familiar there.
And he goes from like a total, like, for those of you that are, familiar with Machiavelli and The Prince, about better to be feared than loved as a leader. I mean, obviously he lives up to that card without question, right? Yeah. I don't even know. I mean, with the exception of maybe, I think Anakin probably has like a love for him, because he takes Anakin under his wing and stuff. But like, I don't think like too many people are like going, that Sheev's a special kind of guy. I will follow him.
Yeah.
Well, I think he commands the admiration of those around him because he was charismatic.
Yeah.
And he was able to, like you said, he was able to manipulate so many people and just kind of draw them into something about him.
Yeah.
Even though that something was evil and terrible,
Right.
he was still able to draw all these people to him to follow him and what he wanted.
Yeah, and by the time people kind of said, "Oh, wait," it was like, well, we're too far down the road.
Well, and that's, you had made the comment in our last segment about the change in Anakin happening so fast.
Right.
And my thought with that was he was strung along so well by Palpatine and just, cookie crumbs here and these little things. And he followed along and ate it all up. And then by the time he got to the end, it was like, all you got to do is push him in the fire now.
Yeah.
Because he's already there.
Yeah, literally.
Literally. Literally. So
Yeah.
I feel like Palpatine, I agree with you, Palpatine is one of the great leaders.
Yeah.
And, but I see people's arguments about how Anakin didn't have this, wrestling within him, but I think it's because it was so clouded by how Palpatine manipulated his mind.
Well, not only that, but I mean, if we're going to go to like the Anakin example, like he was under a time crunch. Like Padme was dying.
Yeah.
And so like the sand in the hourglass was running out.
And that was one of the things that Palpatine used to just really cinch down on it was like, I can save the one you love.
Yeah. No, it's amazing if you take, 1 part charisma and 2 parts, knowing what people's fears are and just kind of throw those together and make a wicked cocktail. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Eve, what do you think?
I completely agree. I think as much as I would hate to live in a galaxy with that kind of ruler. Although it could very well happen in our real lives. There's, I don't know. Beks actually mentioned the word admiration, and I think that carried him. Like he manipulated that level of admiration just until he got that seat, and then just basically threw the gauntlet down. And it was everything is mine, and you're my puppets, and that's the end. And everybody, like you said, it was just they were so far gone at that point that it was just. I mean, like, what could you do other than submit to it?
Well, I think some of them even submitted like gleefully. Yeah. I think some of them were just like, "Oh, yes, of course, that's what we're gonna do."
Well, and what you're offering is so much better than what we have right now. So this pipe dream of what you could give us, even though it's through tyranny and putting your thumb down on people, but it brings peace, and that's what we want.
So I want to throw this out though, because kind of shifting a little bit, but looking at the question as Jeremy asked it, as far as some of the great leaders of Star Wars, where do you all come down when it comes to Leia? And we've got not just the movies, but certainly the books and Bloodline in particular. So she's often heralded as this great general, strong politician. She's propped up, and might add rightly so, as this example of strong female figure. And so I guess even then, Beks, I want to get from you two, where do you see her fitting in as far as like great leaders?
I'd follow her.
Yeah.
I think definitely.
I don't know. I think she might be one of the best leaders. I think there's just so many things you can point to.
I think
about her.
To me, she seems very like Churchillian.
Yeah.
I think it's a leader that has faults, but you want to follow anyway.
Because that's real. I mean, that's human though.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's that I can identify with you. I can relate to you. I will put my trust and faith in you to not just blindly lead me, into the front lines, just being like, well, you're not really well protected, but I'm not going to tell you. That kind of.
There's
Machiavellian.
There's some leaders that we history has followed. People in history have followed because of. Beks, you brought up one thing, charisma. But there's other things as far as maybe not so much charisma, because charisma is getting you to like that person. But great leaders often will be able to cast a vision, and people will follow that vision. we saw a glimpse of that in Rogue One with Jyn. Would we put her in that, or do we not see enough of that character over a longer period of time to say, I like what I saw, but we're talking about one op?
Yeah, small sampling size kind of idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for the time that we saw her, I think we could call her a great leader because she did. Well, I mean, I guess it depends. What do you define a great leader as? Is a great leader one who sets a vision and then goes out and accomplishes that vision and is able to see it through to its completion? Does that make a great leader? Or is a great leader just somebody who is a great tactician and is able to set it up and then hands it off and other people figure it out for them? Does that make sense?
Well, I think there's even great leaders that ultimately fail. I mean, well, look, Jeremy, you're American Civil War expert. I mean, like Robert E. Lee was often heralded as like brilliant.
Yeah.
And obviously hundreds of thousands of people followed him in a battle or were put into battle and did it willingly because he was their leader.
Yeah.
But ultimately he failed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even you take even some other folks, you take like Franklin Roosevelt, like on so many levels, he helped this country succeed, but like ultimately he didn't stay around to the end of World War II. Now it wasn't his fault, but like he didn't see that to the end.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting, like just going back to kind of that. Well, what is what defines a great leader? And I think you have to be careful with that because you don't want to. The United States of America needed Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when we got him. You know, it was lightning striking. We needed someone like that. We needed someone being influenced by not only the teachings of Jesus Christ, but the teachings of Gandhi.
Yeah.
You know, we needed someone to kind of fuse that together, and he did the right things. He didn't overcome hate with hate, but with love.
Right.
Right.
And so it's almost like sometimes you need leaders that are really unique for a certain time.
Yeah.
You know, and going to the Civil War, which I know way too much about. We're talking about Robert E. Lee. There's a moment in the Wilderness Campaign. Where in the Wilderness Campaign, for those of you that have no idea what what happened in the American Civil War, and I know we have a lot of listeners from all over, the Wilderness Campaign was a campaign of Ulysses S. Grant when he took over. He didn't really take over the Army of the Potomac. It was the United States Army of the Potomac that had a general in charge, but he was overranking him, and so he kind of was running the show. And there was a moment in their tent where all the generals were talking about what to do because Lee was so formidable. And they were kind of freaking out. And Grant loses his mind. And he just starts cussing and just lost it. And he goes, he basically said, he goes, you guys are saying basically that he's going to do a double backflip somersault and land on both sides of us and at our front and our rear. Go out there and do your job.
Yeah.
He's right in front of you.
Yeah.
Go fight him.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you have moments in history where you have leaders for those specific times. And what made Grant so amazing was he was not intimidated.
Yeah.
Right.
And you go look at Star Wars, there's this in the Rebellion, there are these leaders that are not going to be pushed around by Palpatine anymore. They're going to fight.
Yeah.
And with Jyn, you kind of see that. You see sort of this realization of what's going on, and she basically makes this kind of statement like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I got to fight.
Right.
I got to. I'm not going back down. There's too many people too many lives depend on it. And I think leadership, one of the big things about it is when you get to a point where you're like, I'm willing to die.
Yeah.
And Dr. King said that. He goes, I might not, the mountaintop speech in Memphis before he was assassinated. He's like,
right.
I may not, make it to the mountaintop.
Right.
And so I think that's a huge, huge component and a lot of times you see this as it plays out. It's when your leaders lead in battle.
Yeah.
Or lead in like whatever the movement is that you're trying to do, whether you're marching or sitting in or whatever it is. And so, for example, like, Alexander the Great, there's so many accounts of him leading sieges or leading the front lines. And, there's even they're probably spurious, but there's even this one legend where they were sieging this fortress in India, and the door, they get into this fortress, and Alexander gets inside, and they get the door shut behind him, and his men freak out, and they're frantically trying to get in the door because Alexander's on the other side by himself. It's probably a legend. It's probably not true. I would love to dig around. It's not canon. But there's always truth in legends, right? Yeah. And so, the way the story goes is they finally get in, and he was in there for about a minute, about 60 seconds. And when they were able to get in, there was 15 dead bodies around him, and he's still fighting. Yeah. And, all of his men are like, I will always follow this person. Right. Yeah. And I think leadership I think Jen had those qualities. Yeah. Even it was in such a short time, it was like catching lightning in a bottle, and all the Cassian and the whole crew, they're like, yeah, let's go. Let's go do this. Let's go lay our lives down. It's time. This is a good cause. We're behind it. We're behind you. And that makes leadership really special, is when you have that leader that's leading from the front, and they're kind of reached this moment, whatever their cause is, they're like, I'm ready to die.
Well,
I'm
and
ready
I think
to die for
that plays into something that, when someone can convince you to not only buy into a vision that's greater than you and greater than them, but like you said, to take you to a spot where, I don't want to say you're not scared, but you dying is inconsequential to whether or not that vision comes to fruition. And my experience in the military is much less Beks. I know that your brother is special forces, and he's seen some pretty crazy stuff, and he could probably tell us really quick, and he good leader versus bad leader.
Absolutely.
And I just remember my sergeant versus my XO, the lieutenant that was in charge of the company, and I don't know for any of the listeners that have maybe seen the series on HBO, Band of Brothers, but there's David Schwimmer plays a character called Captain Sobel, I believe, and is not someone you want to follow into battle.
Nope.
And my XO was that same dude. He had rank, but I did not want to follow that. But it's interesting how in my specific case, my sergeant was just not only tested, but he had a way to go, well, here's what the greater good is. And you're ready to follow him.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, again, Beks, your brother probably can give pages of examples of people he was willing to follow and people that there is no way I'm following this person.
Well, and then let's go back to Leia, right? So you have this character in Star Wars that it's obvious she's ready to sacrifice.
Right. Yeah.
She's captured in A New Hope. She's tortured in A New Hope. She that character talks about it in Bloodline.
Right.
How awful it was to be tortured by her own father.
Right.
Yeah.
And so she's tortured in Empire Strikes Back. She's, at Hoth, she's leading. She's one of the last to leave.
Right.
Right. And then in Return of the Jedi, she's on the landing party.
Yeah.
To Endor. She's always out front. But then there's this other thing.
Well, and again, also in Force Awakens.
Yeah.
When the Resistance shows up.
Yeah, absolutely. When they show up, she's there. And, I think we're going to see some neat things from Luke. I don't think he's a better leader than Leia, but I think he has that gift too. I just don't think it's developed. You know how he develops as a Jedi, she develops as a leader.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I think Luke might be a great teacher. We'll find out in The Last Jedi, and hopefully we get to see him teach.
Yeah.
That would be so much fun as an educator myself.
Yeah.
I hope I get to see that. Luke is it for me. He's my guy besides Obi-Wan.
Redeem my career, Luke Skywalker.
There's a lot riding on you, Mark Hamill. So I just,
do we see any other Jedis as leaders though? Because they've got the High Council and but we see them leading folks into battle, but that's different. And maybe it's just because we don't get that window into them. But I look at Bail Organa as potentially a better leader than some of the people that were on the Jedi Council. And maybe that's, again, through the lens from which we've seen those characters. But
well, then here's the question. With Leia, there's all these little examples Think about the briefing at Hoth Base before they evacuate.
Right.
She's telling them what they need to do.
Right.
But there's love in that.
Yeah.
Like she really loves them.
Yeah.
And she wants them to get away.
Right.
And I don't sense that from the scenes that we have seen in the prequels of the Jedi. In the Clone Wars, there's a lot of exploration of leadership. There's the whole General Krell, I think's his name. There's a whole like story arc with him, and the clones sort of like saying you're not leading appropriately, you know. And then what's interesting is you look at the clones in the Clone Wars animated series, and you have people like Rex that's like a great leader, you know. And it reminds me of some of those Band of Brothers issues that in leadership where you have like I think it's Lipton, and you know how he's trying to lead as opposed to like who he's dealing with, you know, with Sobel.
Right.
And you know you have all those issues playing out in Clone Wars, but I think you're right. I think it's hard to feel loved by the Jedi, and even though that's sort of one of their kind of goals, you know. And then when you look at Qui-Gon, it always seemed like he loved everyone.
Yeah,
he loved Anakin. He loved, you know, he loved obviously Obi-Wan.
Right.
And I always felt like he was. I agree with like a lot of people that are saying, you know, Qui-Gon's probably the best Jedi. And I know there are people that would say crazy, but he's personally, I think, even though Obi-Wan is my favorite, and then Luke. Qui-Gon's up there. I think he's really gifted, and I think you see some of those qualities.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's expand it a little bit. Like, is there other characters or moments where you say, now that's good leadership, and here's why?
Yeah, I think if we start to break things down on a micro level, I think that becomes an interesting game, right? Because then we're just taking snapshots and we say, okay, well that person was a leader, or that situation showed a moment of leadership.
Right.
And I think that
but they aren't necessarily a leader, like someone you would follow no matter what throughout.
Right.
You know, moments of it. I was thinking about that. You asked about the Jedi, and I was thinking about Yoda, and I'm like, he is a great leader. And then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, no, he shows great leadership qualities, and there are snapshots where he is a great leader when he comes in and saves them in
Attack of the Clones.
Man. Yes,
episode 2. Yeah.
And you know, it's like there are those moments where I'm like, yes, that is great leadership. And he doesn't have to convince and manipulate and persuade people to follow him. People follow him because they know that he's right.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know, so it's kind of the opposite for every reason that people follow Palpatine. You know, there isn't that manipulation and everything there. But as I look at it again, I don't think that he would be considered a great leader. While he has great leadership qualities, it's not this overarching, like, yes, you are a leader and you are what I think of when I think of a leader.
Yeah, and they blend leader and teacher. I think Yoda's a great teacher.
Yeah.
And he shows he's teaching leadership, you know, but it's a very one-on-one. He's not necessarily...
Kind of like those who can't teach. Yeah. So like those who can't be a great leader will teach other people
night, everybody.
to be great leaders. No,
how long have we been on the podcast? Our time's up.
Wasn't talking about you guys. I am a substitute teacher, so what does that say about me? But oh man, way to stick my foot.
Yeah,
in that one.
so we saw evidence of that. I mean, we can even look at like Admiral Raddus, right?
Right.
Raddus?
Yeah. Call up a Hammerhead Corvette.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, so like there's all kinds of like
really good.
Well, thanks. You know. If you want me to do something with your voicemail with the Admiral Raddus voice, just let me know.
Yeah.
It's a ringtone. But so we see snapshots of that, right? But one of the things I love about him, it's not even the fact that like he makes that battlefield maneuver as so much as he knew it was right from the get-go.
Yeah.
You know? And that's why at the first sign, he's like, oh no, like we're taking the rebel fleet and we're going.
Yeah.
And so I think that even more than the little strategy of moving a Hammerhead Corvette up or whatever else, I think that is everything. And to me, like that's somebody that I would want to follow. Like he knows his stuff. Like, yes, it's on.
Well, and that risk-taking element.
Yeah.
You know, there's a moment in early when Alexander the Great fights against the Persians, and he's grossly outnumbered. And there's a moment where he I mean, it's insane. I think the Persian army had 200,000, and he, had 40, I think. And of course, Greek strategy was such that they overcame on the field. Right. But there's a moment where he breaks free and charges, and there's a famous mural that still exists, or tapestry or something, and of Alexander getting ready to hurl the spear. And it's at the moment where he broke free and rode up and led a charge and hurled a spear at the general and missed him. But here he is leading and taking that risk. And of course they win the day, and it's just a shocking moment. And you have those, you see that a lot where there's this risk, like Radis takes that risk. The attack on the second Death Star is such a risk, and they take it, and Akbar is kind of leading that. And so there is this element within leadership of risk taking. It's not recklessness, but it's like, okay, we need to do this because it's right and good, and if we don't, no one else will. And
it's empowering.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. What else anything else that's on the sort of for you guys as you've watched these films, read these books? I mean, we could talk a ton about the books, but is there anything else that sort of comes up on your radar when you think of leadership that you haven't had a chance to say?
No, I think for me, Palpatine, Leia, Radis, those would be toward the top of my list. And again, we can see snapshots and windows into other people having their moments.
Yeah.
Right.
And that could be something as minute as, now I'm going to mess up the numbers and someone's going to call me on this, but like take Red 2 and 3 and go do this, right?
Right.
So Red leader's like giving that direct command right there, right?
Yeah.
But as far as kind of big picture overarching within the Star Wars galaxy where we have the opportunity to see that arc play itself out,
Right.
definitely Leia and Palpatine are at the top of my list.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else?
Can I throw a hypothetical?
Sure.
Darth Vader. What do you think that he had the capability to lead if Palpatine had died before?
No.
Before he did. Well, I mean, he technically did, but no, he didn't. He died. They died basically at the same time, I guess. But
well, I think we see him give commands for like the battle on Hoth and things like that, and it's certainly
snapshot leadership.
Yeah.
And I think we would probably just assume, and that's an interesting thing. I think that we've all kind of assumed like, well, like of course Vader's calling the shots at some point. I mean, we kind of see him as this merc bouncer figure for a while. Yeah. But I think ultimately, like we just kind of assume that, he's calling the shots when it comes to a lot of the military tactics and stuff. But I don't know that plays itself out on screen per se, other than some brief snapshots.
I disagree with that.
What?
I'm sorry.
What are you, my wife?
No, but I know her and she's my friend.
Oh, great.
I do though. I disagree with that. While I have always greatly enjoyed Vader's character, I have always seen him as the puppet. And I have always thought of him as, I feel like I shouldn't say this somehow, but I've always thought of him as being weak in a lot of ways. And he brings
tethered.
Exactly. Tethered is a great word for it. And if he were to be fully unleashed, I don't think he would know what to do. I feel like he would be like a dog running around chasing his tail all the time. And, like, okay, I'm going to do this, squirrel, and just constantly.
Jedi.
Yeah, constantly going off. And I don't think that I don't think that he would have been a great leader.
Well, certainly looking at like the Anakin that we know from film,
right?
Like certainly emotionally unstable.
And even the Anakin in the Clone Wars, the animated series, he is reckless. Yeah. And I mean, Ahsoka calls him out on being reckless, and she is reckless.
Yeah, she is.
And so, I mean, for the pot to call the kettle black, it's like, I mean, she does things that I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And, but then for her to be that voice of reason with Anakin, sometimes I'm like, He's too reckless.
You know what? As you're talking, the image that comes to mind is if you go to like the old Tom and Jerry cartoons, they've got the Spike the bulldog.
Yeah.
And
Spike, where are we going, Spike?
Well, and it's like Tom knows exactly where the line is, how far the chain reaches, and he'll like slap the dog or whatever and run just past the line.
Just past the line.
So from like your perspective, it's like Vader's like Spike on his chain, right? He can go so far.
He can go so
far. He's dangerous up to that point.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, Sheev is pulling the chain back.
Yeah.
It's a great question, Eve, and where I kind of land is like, I think that's the tragedy. He is he's so gifted, and he's never loved. Like he's never really cared for it. Like when he gets to his teenage years, he doesn't have that. It's a manipulation that he thinks is love and care. You know, that Palpatine is giving him. And, I wonder if he could be a great leader. Like I wonder if he had, obviously the gifts are there. Like we see little flashes of it here and there.
Right.
We know he leads in the Clone Wars and stuff like that. And he inspires people because, there's even a moment in one of the most recent episodes of Rebels where Kanan does this jump, and Rex kind of is like, Skywalker was better, and like it's like, and Rex has seen it, and he this grizzled, battle hardened like soldier is like, there was no one like Anakin Skywalker, and so there's this great tragedy that exists with Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker. I don't know if we can call him a great leader, but he has so many gifts. And let's bounce back to Kylo for a minute. There was something said just a little while ago, and I was like, "Oh, is that what's happening to Kylo? Where he's kind of getting strung along, just like Palpatine did Vader. Kylo's getting strung along like by Snoke."
Yeah, well, I think Han kind of points to that.
Well, there it is.
Yeah,
no one told Anakin really that was going on until it was too late. And maybe it's too late for Kylo.
Yeah.
Maybe it is. But Han tells him straight up, he is going to destroy you.
Yeah, there's a little dialogue between Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yeah.
Where
Palpatine is evil from my point of view.
Yeah.
The Jedi are evil. It's like, well, you're lost.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Kylo is. Yeah. Like, is he lost yet? Because in the bio, it says that he's not, like, he's struggling.
Yeah.
He's not, so that's where, is there going to be a realization of what's happening to him? And when he realizes it, will he have the strength and power to break free? And can Rey do that? Can Rey break him free? And I wonder if that will be one of the big questions coming up down the road. Because we don't know who some of these Benicio. We don't quite know who Benicio del Toro's character is. Is he another Force user? There's just so many questions. So a lot to consider, especially when it comes to leadership and Snoke, how he leads. We'll get to continue to see how Leia leads. It's going to be really fascinating to watch this play out. So that does it for this episode. A lot to talk about, a lot to think about. And for those of you listening, like, we would love to hear from you. What did we miss? Obviously leadership is such a big topic, but who are the great leaders for you? Where have you seen that? There's Casterfo from Bloodline. We didn't even talk about him. He has so many qualities of great leadership. So point them out to us. Tweet at us at unmistakably.sw. You can also email us at unmistakably.starwars@gmail.com. And enter into the dialogue, enter into the conversation, and let us know what you think. Please review the show on iTunes and give us an awesome 5-star review saying that we're amazing, and that would be really helpful.
And that we're very esoteric.
I think you've misused it again there, Devin.
I do not think that means what you think it means.
Yes.
I don't care.
Yes.
Quote Princess Bride. As always, may the Force be with you.
Thanks for listening to Unmistakably Star Wars. Join us again next week for more news and insights like only we can bring you. Until then, lock the door and hope they don't have blasters.